So, my name is Danielle Lindemann, and for this project, I decided to interview my mom, Tracy. So, say hello, Mom.
Hello, everybody.
And this is Human Growth and Development, and we'll just go ahead and get started. So, the first question is, what age are you?
Currently, I am 57 years old.
Alright. So, I'm just going to ask you some questions about human growth and development in the middle adulthood stage. So, the next question, according to the website from Lumen Learning, individuals of middle adulthood experience changes in physical development. For example, one may have a change in vision or hearing, or may experience frequent joint pain. What are some visible signs of aging that you have noticed that are happening at this time in your life?
Probably, I would say, of course, wrinkling of the skin, maybe some joint pain. I don't have very much, but I've had some. I think every year my vision gets to be a little bit less clear. Probably limited on getting like up and down, like if I sit down on the floor or sit down, getting up and down with knees, knee joints, ankle joints, things like that are a little more difficult.
Okay. Anything else you can think
I
of?
think that's all I can think of.
Okay. So next question kind of has to do with the same thing. So according to the same article published by this website, it quotes, aging brings about a reduction in the number of calories a person requires. However, aging can also cause frequent weight gain, which has the potential to lead to heart problems, diabetes, or other medical issues. So, does our family have any hereditary history of heart problems, cancer, hypertension, or diabetes?
Now, are you referring to my side of the family or both mine and your dad's?
We'll just go with yours since I'm going to interview just you.
Okay. Currently, my mother has AFib for heart, but on medication and has done very well. No cancer that I'm aware of, no hypertension. My
Did
father,
Papa have hypertension?
no hypertension. And my father didn't have diabetes. He just was kind of close to it, but never was diagnosed with being a diabetic.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think we had any of those other issues in the family that I'm aware of.
And are you aware of the signs and symptoms of each of these health problems?
Heart problems, yes. Cancer, no. Hypertension, no. Diabetes, somewhat. I'm just not real familiar with all of those because on my side, we don't have a lot of those issues.
Alright. So, moving on. According to a different article published by the same website, Lumen Learning, it states that the mechanics of cognition, such as working memory and speed of processing, gradually decline with age. Since entering this stage of life, this stage of life, which would be middle adulthood, have you noticed any cognitive or intellectual decline in how you make decisions or even remember things?
I've not noticed any intellectual decline. Now, I think I do have some cognitive in the fact of sometimes have a little trouble with short-term memory. Like some things maybe that are unimportant that occurred yesterday, I may not always remember the next day. Or possibly things that occurred several days ago, I may not be able to recall in my short-term memory.
Going with that, is your long-term memory pretty stable still?
Yes, yes. My long-term is, I don't have any trouble with long-term.
So in our module, we also talked about relationships in middle adulthood, and in one of the articles it said that relationships are a key part of any individual's life, especially in middle adulthood. In fact, the number of adults who have remained single has increased dramatically in the last 30 years. There are more people who stay single and never marry, more widows, and more divorces happening. So based on this information, how have your relationships changed with others since entering into this stage of life? So in other words, now that you're in middle adulthood stage of development, how has relationships between your spouse, your parents, your children, your coworkers, and neighbors have changed?
I think, like with spouse at this age of life, you become much more comfortable. So you can get away with saying and doing a lot more things than when you're younger. You don't fight or argue about as much on most things. And children, okay. I think you become closer in a different way than you do when they're young and when you're young. I think you learn to appreciate people in life more the older you get. That goes with spouse, children, my parents. And I think the older you get, you tend to find a little more time for like coworkers and neighbors. You're not so busy running around and doing so many things with your kids and your job. The older you get.
So going along with that, do you think that's why we see more divorces and like marrying twice and like what else did I say? People staying single and more divorces happening, like I said earlier. Do you think that that's because of like that time period when you're younger and it's harder to establish those good relationships? Do you think that's why we see more divorces happening nowadays? Or why do you think that we see more people getting divorced and not getting married or remarrying?
I think people don't tolerate as much. I also think people have become more selfish and self-centered, and they're not willing to work things out or talk things out or communicate to try to hold a marriage together. And I think divorces nowadays are easy. Pretty easy to get divorces.
Alright.
And I think for young people, number one, I think once again, they don't want to put up with another person's faults. They just want to walk away, and it's easy to do that. They don't want to work at it. And I think it's harder today for young people in relationships just because of all of the baggage that people have. A lot of young people just don't want to deal with it, in my opinion. I think marriage I know it's a lot of work, it takes a lot of time and effort, and I think a lot of people just give up on all that.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on to, we kind of talked about jobs and the workplace for people in the stage of middle adulthood development. So, jobs in the workplace are obviously both important aspects of middle adulthood. According to another article about work and personality published by Lumen Learning, it says that some people within this stage of development may experience stable careers, while others may experience layoffs and find themselves back in school to gain skills for reemployment. Oftentimes, many adults during this stage experience a, quote, midlife crisis due to certain changes and lack of change within their lives. So with that being said, what is your career at this time? We'll start with that.
Well, I don't know that I consider it a career. I consider it my current work, which is a librarian at an elementary school building for kindergartners and first graders.
Okay, so with this career, do you think that you are comfortable with the content of your career? And why or why not?
I think at this stage, yes, I'm comfortable with it because I know my job now and I have good coworkers that I work with. And it has allowed me to work when you work in the school district. It allows you to have the different times off, be able to visit your family and spend time with your kids, especially when they were young.
Okay, so you went to college for half a year, is that right?
Yeah, one semester.
Okay. Looking back, do you think that, or do you wish that you would have stayed in school, or have you ever had a thought of going back to school to get a degree?
At times I wish I would have stayed, but times back when I was young were different. I mean, at those times you could go to school, and that was great, but also you could work. There were a lot of different jobs you could get without a college degree that were good, which is what I chose to do because I didn't know what I wanted to get a degree in. So I chose to go into the workforce. And back then, that was very acceptable, and you could make it very easily. Went into banking without a college degree, and you were able to do that a lot more back in my young days as a young adult compared to today. I feel today, in order to get ahead, you need to go to some form of school, not necessarily a 4-year degree, but I feel technical trade colleges and community colleges are as good or a good fit for some as well as a 4-year degree.
Okay. So with your job now, I know it's not really a career, but going along with wanting to change and maybe going back, do you want to advance or change your career in the future, or do you think you're pretty satisfied with it now?
Well, I could make changes. I've done several different types of jobs, and as I get older, I might look into something down the road that is more on full-time, all-the-time work. When you work for a school district, you have the various holidays and summers off. And so I have considered going back into more of a full-time type of job down the road. Going back to school for me, I don't know that I will, just because of the cost and my age. I think if I ever did, I would have to know that's what I would want to do in order to justify the cost of getting a degree. But the other thing I have to add to that is I'm married to someone that does have a full-time career job. And so for me, it makes it easier to make that decision because I'm married to someone that has a good career position. And I think today that's not always the case. I think it takes two people to be able to make it work. But I am a firm believer in being able to stay home with your kids too, because I feel it's extremely important and something that you can never ever get back. That's kind of been my priority over my adult years to this point in time.
Okay. So kind of going along with the whole midlife crisis thing that I'm sure you've heard about. So oftentimes during the stage of development, like I said, it's often times you hear that people go through a midlife crisis. So a midlife crisis, according to our book, is defined as a period of transition in which one holds earlier images of the self while forming new ideas about the self of the future. So in this article, it talked about one 10-year research study conducted by the MacArthur Foundation Research Network on successful midlife development. They interviewed 3,000 midlife adults between the ages of 40 and 60, and out of these 3,000 adults, 23% of them reported to have been experiencing a midlife crisis. Do you predict you will, or have you ever felt one of these midlife crisis situations?
I don't think I ever have really experienced midlife. I think sometimes you look back on your life and say, well, I wish I would have done this differently, or I wish I would have tried that. But to say it's been a crisis in my life at this time, no, I have not had experienced that as of this point in time.
And since you haven't experienced one, do you think that you will in the future, or do you think you're pretty content with your life so far in your position right as an individual right now?
I think I'm pretty content, and I'm the type of person that if I want to make a change or I want to maybe try to do something different, I will do that. I'm not going to sit and worry about it or think about it or make it a crisis. And I'm a firm believer in a person has to make themselves happy. They can't rely on others or circumstances in their life to make them happy. You have to be happy with yourself. And I think if you're that, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then we're going to kind of backtrack because I forgot to ask you one question. So this will be the last question.
Okay.
I'm kind of going back, but I know that you exercise and eat properly. Just being around you, I know that you do. So, according to another article by this website that I read, exercise and proper nutrition are both powerful ways to combat the changes associated with aging. In fact, exercise can be thought of as a preventative health care, and it promoting exercise for 78 million baby boomers may be one of the best ways to reduce healthcare costs and improve overall quality of life. So, what are the lifestyle choices that have made a strong impact on your health status? This could be like exercise, diet, or just your regular daily habits. So, we'll just start with that one.
Yes, exercise has helped me. Eating properly, eating the right kinds of foods has been beneficial for me, especially working around elementary kids. It's real important to do those things to stay healthy because of the amount of germs that we're around. I'd say taking time for me to do things, reading, walking the dog. Having a dog has been a great help because I do take him out for lots of walks. I don't stress myself out, but I don't have a real stressful job, so that's easy for me to say. I don't get stressed out real often or too much or let things bother me or get to me. And I don't smoke. I don't drink a lot. Casual drink once in a while. Try to get good sleep. It doesn't always happen, but I think that's about all.
And then just one more question, going along with this. If you could change your choices from the past, what lifestyle choices would you change?
Probably exercise more early on. Eat better early on. That's about all. Most things I've done. And as a result of it, I don't have a lot of health issues. Don't have to go to doctor's visits a lot. Have pretty good health, pretty good teeth care. I take care of myself dental-wise. I take care of my eyes. Regular checkups for dental, for eyes. I also get regular blood work through my school district once a year. We do blood draws, and I have my blood and those things checked once a year. And that's been a really good thing. That's probably everything.
Okay. Just make sure that's all of them. Alright, I think we got them all. So do you have any questions for me before we go?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing this interview with me.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
All right.